Somewhere beyond a quiet valley, where ancient stone pillars rest beneath eternal mist and forgotten shrines hum with the weight of creation itself, the Pokémon world drifts through layers of history older than human memory. From Hisui's frozen peaks, where Arceus first touched the earth, to Paldea's sunlit crater holding secrets from distant timelines, each region carries stories etched into mountains, oceans, and the very fabric of reality. Ancient clans wandered these lands. Legendary Pokémon shaped the balance between time and space. Fallen kingdoms rose and fell beneath the watchful eyes of divine forces. Tonight, we're tracing the paths of every region, and before we drift any further, make sure to subscribe so once we reach 1,000 subs, I can reduce the ads and tell me where you're watching from tonight. The story begins not with human footsteps, but with a single point of light suspended in absolute nothingness. Arceus, the original one, emerged from an egg that floated in the void before time existed or space had meaning. This deity shaped reality itself through sheer will, calling forth the fundamental forces that would govern all existence. From Arceus came Dialga, the keeper of time's endless flow, whose heartbeats set the rhythm of past and future. Palkia followed, weaving the boundless expanse of space so matter could exist beyond a single point. Then came Giratina, born to balance creation with antimatter, cast into the distortion world, where physics bent and twisted according to different laws. These three forces formed the skeleton of reality, holding everything together even as they pulled in opposing directions. But a universe needs more than structure. It needs an emotion, knowledge, and will to give meaning to existence. Arceus created the Lake Guardians to fill this need, placing them in the waters of what would become the Sinnoh region. Uxie brought knowledge, the ability to learn and remember across generations, settling into Lake Acuity, where its very presence sharpened the minds of creatures who approached. Mesprit carried emotion, allowing beings to feel joy, sorrow, and everything between those extremes, making its home in Lake Verity, where the waters themselves seemed to pulse with feeling. Azelf embodied willpower, the force that drives creatures to act despite fear or uncertainty, dwelling in Lake Valor, where determination itself took on both physical weight in the air. These three spirits settled into hidden lakes, their presence radiating outward to touch every living thing that would eventually walk the land. The lakes became sacred sites even before humans existed, wild Pokémon gathering near their shores as if drawn by instincts they couldn't name. The waters held properties that changed those who drank from them, subtle shifts in awareness and capability that accumulated across generations. Pokémon who lived near the lakes developed heightened intelligence, stronger emotional bonds with their packs, and determination that carried them through challenges that would break creatures dwelling elsewhere. These qualities passed to offspring, creating lineages that exhibited the Guardians' gifts without understanding their source. The Guardians themselves rarely manifested physically, preferring to influence the world through their presence rather than direct intervention. When they did appear, it signaled moments of extraordinary significance, threats to reality itself, or opportunities to guide evolution toward futures aligned with Arceus's vision. Ancient texts described encounters with the Lake Guardians as transformative experiences that left witnesses fundamentally changed, unable to return to previous understanding once they had glimpsed the deeper patterns governing existence. The relationship between the Lake Guardians and the Creation Trio formed a check against absolute power concentrating in any single entity. Dialga, Palkia, and Giratina possessed the strength to reshape reality, but the Lake Guardians could sever their connection to the physical world if they threatened existence itself. This balance ensured that even godlike beings faced limits on their authority, that power alone couldn't override the fundamental forces of knowledge, emotion, and will that gave reality meaning beyond mere structure. As we drift a little deeper into this topic, the landscape itself began taking shape beneath these cosmic forces. Groudon rose from the planet's molten core, a titan of earth and fire, whose every step raised continents from beneath primordial seas, its body radiating heat so intense that oceans boiled where it walked. Kyogre surfaced from oceanic depths, a leviathan commanding water itself, expanding the seas until they covered most of the world, its massive form creating waves tall enough to reshape coastlines with each movement. These two forces clashed in battles that lasted eons, reshaping coastlines with every confrontation, their conflict so intense that the very fabric of the young world strained under the pressure of opposing elemental forces locked in eternal struggle. The battles between Groudon and Kyogre created landscapes that existed nowhere else, extreme environments where fire and water met in explosive collisions that birthed volcanic islands, and underwater trenches deeper than mountains were tall. Steam erupted in massive clouds that circled the globe, creating atmospheric patterns that would influence weather for millions of years. The Titans themselves grew more powerful with each encounter, absorbing energy from their respective elements until they embodied earth and sea so completely that they became inseparable from those domains. When their fury threatened to tear the young world apart, when the balance between land and sea tilted so far that existence itself faced dissolution, Rayquaza descended from the stratosphere to restore balance. This sky serpent forced the two titans into deep slumber, sealing them in caverns where their power would rest until disturbed, using its mastery over atmospheric pressure and celestial energy to create conditions that made continued fighting impossible. The serpent's intervention saved the world, but didn't resolve the fundamental tension. Earth and sea would always press against each other, and Groudon and Kyogre would always represent those opposing forces, waiting for the chance to resume their eternal conflict. Rayquaza itself retreated to the ozone layer after establishing this precarious peace, dwelling in the boundary between Earth and space, where it could monitor both Titans and respond if either awakened prematurely. The dragon's vigil lasted millennia, its presence in the upper atmosphere creating auroras and atmospheric phenomena that ancient peoples interpreted as divine signs. Occasionally, it descended to consume meteoroids before they could strike the planet, its role as protector extending beyond merely policing Groudon and Kyogre to guarding against cosmic threats that might disturb the fragile balance it had established. The Hoenn region emerged from this primal conflict, its landscape a testament to fire and flood locked in eternal balance. Volcanic ash settled into rich soil where forests eventually grew. Coastal waters calmed into peaceful routes between islands. Mount Chimney stood as a reminder of Groudon's forge, while the deep trenches near Satopolis whispered of Kyogre's domain. The Draconid people would later build their culture around Rayquaza, passing down stories of the sky-high Pokémon through meteor showers and constellation maps. They learned to read the stars, charting paths across oceans long before modern navigation existed. In the frigid north, a different story unfolded across the land that would become Hisui, later known as Sinnoh. Mount Coronet pierced the heavens like a spear thrust into creation's heart, and at its peak, Arceus descended to observe the world taking shape. The Diamond Clan would eventually revere this mountain as sacred ground, building shrines along its slopes where time felt different, where the veil between mortal and divine grew thin. The Pearl Clan settled near Lake Valor, honoring the spaciousness of existence, the room for all things to breathe and grow. These early humans didn't domesticate Pokémon through Pokeballs. They formed bonds through mutual respect and shared survival. The Hisui era stretched across centuries when wild Pokémon posed genuine danger and humans relied on noble Pokémon for protection. Cleaver guarded forests with obsidian scythes, its territories marked by trees carved with warning patterns that told trespassers they'd entered domains under its protection. Lilligant led moonlit dances that blessed crops, the rituals performed under full moons when its power peaked and farmers gathered to witness blessings that could mean the difference between abundance and starvation. Arcanine watched over settlements, their loyalty absolute. These magnificent creatures bonding with entire communities rather than single trainers and defending their adopted homes with ferocity that made predators think twice before approaching. Electrode crackled through storms, drawing lightning away from vulnerable structures, their presence during thunderstorms seen as divine favor, protecting the settlement from nature's wrath. Avalugg provided passage across frozen lakes, their massive backs serving as living bridges when winter ice proved too thin for safe crossing, but travel remained necessary. These nobles weren't merely powerful, they held territories and commanded respect from both humans and Pokémon alike, their authority recognized through complex social hierarchies that predated human understanding of Pokémon behavior. When nobles grew frenzied, overcome by surges of energy they couldn't control, wardens performed rituals to calm them, throwing bombs infused with medicinal herbs while dodging attacks that could shatter stone, these confrontations testing both the warden's skill and their bond with the frenzied noble. The process sometimes lasted hours, the warden dancing between devastating strikes while gradually wearing down the noble's frenzied state through repeated applications of calming balms. The role of warden passed through families across generations, each inheritor learning from their predecessor through years of apprenticeship before accepting full responsibility. Becoming a warden meant dedicating one's life to maintaining balance between human settlements and the powerful Pokémon whose territories overlapped with human habitation. Some wardens never needed to calm their noble, even once during their tenure, while others faced frenzies multiple times per year, depending on their noble's temperament and local conditions. The position carried both honor and burden, respect from the community balanced against the constant awareness that failure could mean death for themselves and devastation for the settlement they protected. The frenzies themselves resulted from environmental factors that modern understanding still struggles to fully explain. Space-time distortions, unusual weather patterns, or disruptions to energy flows that nobles sensed more keenly than ordinary Pokémon. Ancient records suggest that frenzies occurred more frequently during periods when Dialga and Palkia grew restless, when temporal and spatial boundaries weakened and allowed energies from other dimensions to seep into the physical world. Nobles, being more sensitive to these disturbances, reacted violently to preserve their territories against threats they could feel but not see. Another quiet detail appears when we look closer at how settlements formed during this ancient period. Jubilife Village started as a collection of wooden huts behind defensive walls, where the Galaxy Team Expedition Society gathered researchers, builders, and Security Corps members who ventured into unmapped wilderness. They cataloged Pokémon behaviors, mapped terrain, and slowly pushed back the frontier's edge. The Medical Corps treated injuries from wild encounters. The Construction Corps raised buildings that could withstand Snorlax rampages. The Survey Corps, where many trainers began their journey, explored every corner of Hisui's 5 main regions, filling the first Pokédex entries with careful observations. The Alabaster Icelands stretched endlessly white, where Avalugg served as living glaciers and underground hot springs provided refuge from blizzards. The Crimson Mirelands held bogs that swallowed the unwary, while Ursaluna guided travelers using peat moss to detect ancient treasures. The cobalt coastlands saw Basculegian fairy souls across waters, honoring Pokémon who perished in the waves. The Coronet Highlands tested climbers with altitude and stone mazes where Sneasler's claws found purchase on sheer cliffs. Obsidian Fieldlands offered gentle introduction to Hisui's challenges, where Weirdeer's antlers glowed to reveal hidden paths. Each region demanded different skills, different partnerships between humans and Pokémon who understood the land. As we drift a little deeper into this topic, the Celestica people predated even the clans, leaving ruins that hinted at advanced understanding of space-time distortions. Their temples featured murals depicting Dialga and Palkia in forms later forgotten, suggesting they witnessed events beyond normal history. The Temple of Sinnoh stood atop Mount Coronet, where stone pillars channeled energy in patterns modern science struggled to replicate. When the ancient Sinnoh inhabitants vanished, they left behind the Azure Flute, an instrument capable of summoning Arceus itself. Legends whispered that they ascended, or perhaps crossed into another dimension, their knowledge scattered across ruins, waiting for worthy discoverers. The rift above Mount Coronet appeared during a space-time distortion event that nearly tore Hisui apart. The sky split open, revealing a swirling void where Dialga and Palkia clashed, their battle distorting reality itself. A traveler from another time was pulled through this rift, arriving in Hisui with knowledge of future Pokémon and modern techniques. This stranger helped resolve the crisis, calming the temporal dragons before their conflict shattered the timeline. When the rift sealed, Hisui's future was secured, allowing the region to evolve into the Sinnoh we recognize today. Centuries passed, and Hisui transformed as settlements expanded and technology advanced. Jubilife Village grew into Jubilife City, a metropolis where Pokétch devices replaced handwritten journals, and the Galaxy team's headquarters evolved into the modern trainer school system. Mount Coronet remained central to Sinnoh's identity, its caves housing Pokémon that thrived in eternal darkness. The lakes still held the Guardians, Uxie in Acuity, Mesprit in Verity, Azelf in Valor, though fewer people made pilgrimages to these sacred waters. The modern era brought gyms, the Pokémon League, and championship battles at the peak where ancient shrines once stood. But Sinnoh's transformation wasn't unique. Every region underwent similar evolution from wilderness to civilization. Far to the south, what would become Kanto and Johto saw their first human settlements appear near freshwater sources and fertile plains. The ruins of Alph emerged as one of humanity's earliest architectural achievements, where unknown glyphs danced on chamber walls. These symbols represented a written language predating modern script, possibly a communication method between humans and Pokémon before spoken language fully developed. Archaeologists spent generations deciphering messages about legendary beasts, creation myths, and warnings about disturbing forces better left dormant. Kanto rose to prominence through strategic location and natural resources that supported growing populations. Saffron City became the region's heart, where psychic-type trainers established dojos, and the Sylph Company pioneered Pokeball technology that would revolutionize human-Pokemon relationships. Before Pokeballs, trainers relied on ancient techniques, bonds formed through shared danger, food offerings, and rituals that took months to establish trust. The invention of capture devices democratized partnership, allowing anyone to carry teams of 6 Pokémon instead of wandering with a single trusted companion. Johto developed parallel to Kanto, but maintained stronger connections to spiritual traditions that modernization elsewhere eroded. Ekritique City became the region's cultural center, where the Bell Tower and Brass Tower reached toward the heavens. These towers housed legendary beasts said to possess divine qualities, though their origin story carried tragedy. 3 centuries before the modern era, the brass tower caught fire during a lightning storm, the flames consuming the structure in a single night. 3 Pokémon perished in the blaze, their bodies burned beyond recognition. Ho-Oh witnessed this catastrophe from the heavens and descended, using sacred ash to resurrect the 3 as Raikou, Entei, and Suicune. These legendary beasts emerged transformed, embodying thunder, fire, and north winds, respectively. The brass tower's ruins became known as the Burned Tower, a monument to destruction and rebirth standing in Akrute's heart. Trainers who ventured into its charred basement occasionally glimpsed the legendary beasts, though they fled before battles could begin. The bell tower, meanwhile, remained pristine, requiring the Rainbow Wing for access to its summit, where Ho-Oh rested between journeys across the sky. This guardian Pokémon appeared only to pure-hearted trainers, testing their worth before revealing itself. Johto's culture revolved around such legends, maintaining shrines and performing ceremonies that kept ancient traditions alive even as cities modernized around them. Trade routes connecting Kanto and Johto established early in their shared history, merchants traveling between Goldenrod and Saffron, carrying goods and stories. The regions shared governance through the Indigo Plateau, a mountaintop facility hosting the Pokémon League that served both territories. This championship destination tested trainers against the Elite Four and the reigning champion, their battles broadcast across both regions. Victory required mastering diverse types, strategies, and the mental fortitude to face increasingly difficult opponents without breaks between matches. The Indigo Plateau became a symbol of unity, where Kanto and Johto trainers competed equally for the title. Yet tensions simmered beneath cooperation. Border disputes occasionally flared over trade tariffs, fishing rights, and which region's culture should dominate shared spaces. Kanto's rapid industrialization clashed with Johto's preservation of natural habitats and historical sites. The construction of the magnet train connecting Goldenrod and Saffron eased some friction by accelerating travel to minutes instead of days, allowing people to experience both regions' distinct identities without choosing permanent residence. This technological marvel ran on electric-type Pokémon power, Magnemite, and Magneton, generating the electromagnetic fields that propelled the train at speeds that made landscapes blur. As we drift a little deeper into this topic, the Hoenn region developed independently across southern seas, its island chains and coastal geography creating a culture distinct from Kanto Johto's mainland focus. Hoenn's earliest inhabitants were the Draconid people, who built the Sky Pillar as a monument to Rayquaza and maintained rituals that could summon the Sky Dragon during emergencies. These guardians passed knowledge through oral tradition, teaching each generation the songs and ceremonies required to communicate with legendary Pokémon. When disaster threatened, when Groudon and Kyogre awakened from their ancient slumber, only the Draconids remembered the proper rites to call Rayquaza from the stratosphere. This disaster occurred approximately 3,000 years before the modern era, when a meteoroid approached the planet on a collision course. The impact would have caused extinction-level damage, but Rayquaza intercepted the space rock, shattering it with Draco Meteor before it could strike. Fragments rained across Hoenn, scattering stones that would become megastones when exposed to the energy of Rayquaza's mega evolution, the first recorded instance of this phenomenon. The meteoroid's remnants settled near what would become Meteor Falls, where dragon-type Pokémon gathered around the space debris, drawn to its otherworldly energy. The Suetopolis region formed in a massive crater created by an ancient meteoroid impact, its circular lake surrounded by white stone walls that glittered in sunlight. The city became sacred to Hoenns, people, home to the Cave of Origin, where Groudon and Kyogre rested in separate chambers deep beneath the water. Seals placed by ancient guardians kept the Titans dormant, but human ambition would eventually break those seals. The disaster that followed nearly destroyed Hoenn, as Groudon raised the sun to scorching intensity, while Kyogre summoned torrential rains that threatened to flood the entire region. Team Magma and Team Aqua, rival organizations with opposing philosophies, caused this catastrophe through their attempts to reshape the world according to their visions. Team Magma sought to expand the landmass, believing more territory would benefit humanity and land-dwelling Pokémon. Team Aqua wanted to increase the oceans, thinking aquatic life needed more habitat. Both groups awakened their respective legendary Pokémon using stolen orbs of ancient power, neither fully understanding the forces they were unleashing. When Groudon and Kyogre began their clash, weather patterns across Hoenn spiraled into chaos. Droughts withered forests, while hurricanes battered coastlines. Only Rayquaza's intervention restored balance, the Sky Dragon forcing both Titans back into dormancy. The Hoenn region recovered from this near apocalypse, but the incident taught harsh lessons about disturbing legendary Pokémon. The orbs were sealed away properly this time, with multiple safeguards preventing future theft. Team Magma and Team Aqua disbanded after witnessing the destruction their ambitions caused, their leaders expressing remorse before disappearing from public life. Hoenn implemented stricter regulations on archaeological excavations and ancient artifact handling, recognizing that some knowledge carried too much danger to pursue carelessly. Another quiet detail appears when we look closer at Hoenn's unique ecosystem that emerged from its geological history. The region hosted Pokémon found nowhere else, species adapted to volcanic soil, deep-sea pressure, and the intense sunlight that bathed tropical routes. Tropius evolved to grow fruit on their necks in response to abundant sunshine and fertile ground. Relicanth survived unchanged for 100 million years in deep ocean trenches where evolutionary pressure remained minimal. Castform's body changed form based on weather patterns, a survival mechanism in a region where conditions shifted dramatically between areas. These Pokémon demonstrated evolution's response to Hoenn's extreme environmental diversity. The sealed chamber represented one of Hoenn's most enigmatic mysteries, an underwater ruin accessible only through specific currents and tides. Ancient braille covered the walls, providing instructions for accessing 3 chambers where the legendary golems rested. Regirock, Regis, and Registeel were constructs created by an ancient civilization, guardians built to protect something precious, though what they guarded was lost to history. Awakening them required solving puzzles that tested patience and observation, reflecting the civilization's belief that worthy discoverers needed both intelligence and determination. Far across the ocean to the west, the Unova region developed along a different trajectory, its history shaped by twin legendary dragons and the conflict between truth and ideals. Thousands of years ago, a single dragon Pokémon lived alongside 2 brothers who built the first Unovan kingdom together. These siblings shared a vision of a better world, but disagreed on how to achieve it. One believed in pursuing truth above all else, while the other thought ideals should guide their actions. The original dragon, sensing this fundamental split, divided itself into Reshiram and Zekrom, embodying truth and ideals respectively. The brothers went to war, each commanding a legendary dragon whose power reshaped the landscape with every confrontation. Cities burned under Reshiram's blue flames. Forests turned to ash from Zekrom's lightning strikes. The conflict raged until both brothers realized their war would destroy everything they sought to protect. They agreed to seal the dragons away, Reshiram entering the Lightstone and Zekrom the Darkstone, artifacts that would wait centuries for worthy trainers to awaken them. A third dragon emerged from the discarded shell of the original, Kyurem, an empty husk that wandered Unova's northern reaches, seeking completeness it could never regain. Unova's modern civilization arose on these ancient battlefields, building cities that emphasized progress and innovation. Castelia City became a towering metropolis of glass and steel, its streets packed with people from every region seeking opportunity in Unova's booming economy. The region embraced cultural diversity, its population including immigrants who brought traditions, cuisine, and Pokémon from their homelands. This melting pot philosophy made Unova distinct from regions where historical continuity and preservation dominated cultural identity. Here, the future mattered more than the past, though shadows of ancient conflicts still lingered in forgotten ruins. Team Plasma emerged as Unova's greatest modern threat, an organization claiming to fight for Pokémon liberation from human control, their message resonating with people who questioned whether capture and training truly represented mutual partnership or merely sophisticated exploitation. Their charismatic leader, N, genuinely believed humans and Pokémon should live separately, that capture and training constituted a form of slavery, no matter how kindly trainers treated their partners. His conviction born from childhood experiences where he'd only encountered abused and abandoned Pokémon. Team Plasma gathered supporters through compelling rhetoric about Pokémon rights, building a castle that rose from beneath the Pokémon League in a dramatic statement of power, the structure emerging from the underground construction that had proceeded secretly for years. N awakened Zekrom and challenged the reigning champion, seeking to prove through victory that his truth justified reshaping society, that a world where Pokémon lived free from human interference represented the only moral path forward. N's philosophy, while extreme, raised legitimate questions about consent and autonomy in human Pokémon relationships. Did Pokémon truly choose partnership, or did they simply lack alternatives when captured and trained from youth? Could creatures kept in Pokéballs and commanded in battle genuinely flourish, or did they merely tolerate captivity because they'd never known freedom? These questions troubled thoughtful trainers who recognized that their relationships, however loving, occurred within power dynamics where humans made all major decisions. N forced uncomfortable confrontation with these ethical ambiguities, demanding that society examine assumptions it preferred to leave unquestioned. A young trainer countered by awakening Reshiram, the clash between truth and truth, revealing that reality held more complexity than N's black and white philosophy allowed, that both liberation and partnership could represent valid truths depending on circumstances and individuals involved. The battle itself became secondary to the philosophical confrontation it represented, two trainers wielding legendary dragons, each convinced their vision represented the only path to justice and happiness for Pokémon. Reshiram and Zekrom fought without true malice, the dragons understanding that both trainers acted from genuine conviction rather than selfishness or cruelty. The resolution of Unova's crisis didn't come through defeating N, but helping him understand that bonds between humans and Pokémon could be genuine partnerships rather than exploitation, that his limited experience with abused Pokémon had given him distorted perspective on relationships that could be healthy and mutual when both parties chose participation freely. This realization shattered the worldview his adoptive father, Getsis, had carefully constructed through manipulation and lies, the older man having raised N in isolation specifically to create a weapon against human Pokémon partnerships. Team Plasma fractured, some members genuinely seeking Pokémon welfare, while others pursued Getsis's hidden agenda of domination, the organization splitting along lines that had always existed but remained hidden while N's charisma held disparate factions together. The dragons returned to their stones after the conflict, waiting once more for trainers whose hearts aligned with truth or ideals. As we drift a little deeper into this topic, the Kalos region's history carried perhaps the darkest chapter in the Pokémon world's entire chronicle, a war so devastating it nearly ended all civilization 3,000 years before the modern era. The conflict's origins remain murky, records lost or deliberately destroyed in the catastrophe that followed, but its conclusion left scars visible even today in geological formations and energy patterns that defied natural explanation. AZ, the king of Kalos during this period, possessed a floette he cherished beyond measure, their bond representing the ideal partnership between human and Pokémon that poets celebrated and ordinary trainers aspired to achieve. When war claimed his beloved Pokémon's life, grief shattered AZ's sanity and morality, transforming a wise king into someone willing to commit unthinkable atrocities if it meant reclaiming what he'd lost. He constructed the ultimate weapon, a massive machine that drew energy from Pokémon life force itself, intending to resurrect his floette regardless of cost, unconcerned with how many lives would be sacrificed to achieve his single-minded goal. The weapon's construction required years and resources that bankrupted the kingdom, AZ driving his people to exhaustion, building the machine that would become their doom. Engineers who questioned the project disappeared. Advisors who counseled mercy found themselves imprisoned. The king's obsession consumed everything around him until the weapon finally stood complete, a towering monument to grief transformed into technological monstrosity. The weapon worked. Floette returned to life, her form altered by the process, her flowers changing color to reflect the unnatural energies that had torn her from death's embrace. But the machine's activation required sacrificing countless Pokémon, their energy drained to fuel the resurrection, entire forests of Pokémon falling silent as the weapon drew their life force across vast distances. The war ended when AZ turned the weapon on the battlefield itself, unleashing a beam of energy that obliterated armies on both sides, erasing soldiers in an instant while survivors fled in terror from power that exceeded anything they'd imagined possible. The blast's radiation transformed the landscape, creating megastones from ordinary minerals exposed to the weapon's unique energy signature. These crystallized remnants of catastrophe scattered across Kalos, where they would wait millennia before humans discovered their properties. This same radiation granted AZ immortality, cursing him to wander Kalos for millennia, carrying the weight of genocide, his body refusing to age or die, while his mind remained trapped in the moment of his greatest sin. His floette, horrified by what her resurrection cost, abandoned him, refusing to stay with someone who would commit such atrocities even for love, her departure a wound that cut deeper than any blade. AZ watched civilizations rise and fall, saw forests grow and die, witnessed the birth of new Pokémon species and the extinction of others, all while carrying the knowledge that he'd created weapons capable of ending everything, and that his personal grief had justified mass murder in his diseased mind. The weapon's remains were buried and forgotten, but the megastones it created became central to modern battling, once rediscovered. Trainers who used Mega Evolution rarely understood that they wielded power born from atrocity, that the stones allowing their Pokémon to transform came from the single darkest moment in recorded history. This ignorance perhaps served Mercy's purpose. Knowing the truth might have made using Megastones feel like profiting from tragedy, yet refusing to use them wouldn't undo the suffering that created them. Modern Kalos rose from the ashes of this ancient catastrophe, building a culture that emphasized beauty, art, and the bonds between humans and Pokémon that AZ's weapon had violated so profoundly. Lumiose City became the region's crown jewel, its central tower visible from every direction, a monument to reaching toward the sky rather than dwelling in the past. Cafes lined cobblestone streets, where trainers discussed strategy over coffee. Museums displayed historical artifacts, with plaques explaining the war's lessons. The Kalos region wanted visitors to understand history without being defined by it, moving forward while remembering enough to prevent repetition. The discovery of Mega Evolution added new dimensions to battling, allowing certain Pokémon to temporarily surpass their normal limits through deep bonds with trainers. This phenomenon required Megastones matching the Pokémon species and a trainer holding the Keystone, their resonance triggering transformation during battle. Mega Evolution placed enormous strain on both Pokémon and trainer, requiring perfect synchronization and mutual trust. The process essentially represented the ultimate expression of partnership. Neither human nor Pokémon could achieve it alone, and the transformation lasted only as long as both wills remained aligned. Team Flare threatened Kalos with repeating history, their leader Lysandra seeking the ultimate weapon to reshape the world according to his vision of beauty. He believed the planet's resources couldn't support growing populations, and that culling humanity would preserve the world for those he deemed worthy. Lysandra located the weapon's remains beneath Geosange Town, reactivating systems dormant for 3,000 years. The plan failed when a young trainer prevented the weapon's full activation, though the resulting energy release altered the region's ley lines and possibly affected the fabric of reality in ways not yet fully understood. AZ appeared during this crisis, having wandered into Kalos after millennia abroad. Confronting the weapon that cursed him brought emotions he'd suppressed for centuries flooding back. When the dust settled and Lysandra's scheme lay in ruins, AZ's Floette returned to him, sensing through their bond that he'd finally changed, that he'd chosen to prevent catastrophe rather than cause it. Their reunion, after 3,000 years, brought AZ's first tears in living memory. The immortal king finally granted the forgiveness he'd sought across endless centuries. Another quiet detail appears when we look closer at how Kalos's relationships with neighboring regions developed over these millennia. Trade routes connected Kalos with Galar across a narrow channel, the two regions sharing cultural elements while maintaining distinct identities. Kalosian fashion influenced Galarian style, while Galarian engineering principles improved Kalosian architecture. The regions occasionally competed in friendly tournaments where trainers tested national pride, though genuine animosity remained rare. Both had learned from histories marred by conflict, preferring cooperation that benefited all parties. The Galar region itself underwent dramatic transformation during the Industrial Revolution, when coal mines and steam engines powered rapid expansion. Macrocosmos, a massive conglomerate, rose to dominance by providing energy infrastructure that lit cities and powered factories. The company's chairman positioned himself as Galar's benefactor, investing in stadiums, transportation, and the Pokémon League that became central to Galarian culture. Gym challenges evolved into massive spectacles held in stadiums holding tens of thousands of spectators, battles broadcast across the region where they captivated audiences with drama that blurred lines between sport and entertainment. Galar's ancient history involved the Darkest Day, a catastrophic event that occurred 3,000 years ago when a meteoroid struck the region. The impact awakened Eternatus, an alien Pokémon that emerged from the meteoroid and began transforming Galar's environment with Dynamax energy. This poisonous force caused Pokémon to grow to enormous sizes and lose control, rampaging across the landscape in confused fury. Two heroes wielding a sword and shield confronted Eternatus, their Pokémon, Zacian and Zamazenta, battling the alien creature until it fell dormant beneath the earth. The heroes were later crowned kings of Galar, though their true identities were lost to legend. Eternatus's influence never fully vanished, its energy seeping into the land and creating power spots where Dynamax phenomenon could occur. Galar harnessed this energy for entertainment, building stadiums over power spots where trainers could Dynamax their Pokémon during gym battles and championship matches. The process differed from Mega Evolution. Any Pokémon could Dynamax with proper energy exposure, the transformation lasting 3 turns, regardless of bonds or items. This democratization of power made battles more accessible to casual trainers while adding strategic depth for experienced battlers who had to time their Dynamax carefully. Chairman Rose's ambition to secure Galar's energy future led him to prematurely awaken Eternatus, believing he could harness its power permanently. The plan backfired catastrophically as Eternatus began another darkest day, its energy threatening to consume Galar entirely. Zacian and Zamazenta awakened from centuries of slumber, the legendary heroes returning to combat the alien threat once more. They succeeded with help from trainers who wielded the rusted sword and shield, artifacts that amplified the wolves' power to their crowned forms. Eternatus was captured and contained, though the incident revealed how easily modern ambition could unleash ancient horrors. As we drift a little deeper into this topic, the Alola region presented an entirely different cultural approach to human Pokémon relationships. This tropical archipelago consisted of 4 main islands, each protected by a guardian deity called a Tapu. These Pokémon watched over their respective islands with fierce dedication, occasionally testing humans to ensure they remained worthy of living under divine protection. Alola's trial system replaced traditional gyms, challenging trainers to complete tasks that proved their character as much as their battling skill. Trials might involve gathering ingredients, solving riddles, or navigating obstacles before confronting a totem Pokémon that called allies to assist it in battle. The Alola region's Kahuna system placed each island under the guidance of a powerful trainer chosen by that island's Tapu. Becoming Kahuna required passing the Guardian's test, often a battle where the Tapu assessed both strength and spirit. Kahunas served as leaders, mediators, and protectors, maintaining balance between progress and tradition as outside influences increasingly touched Alola's isolated culture. The region only recently opened to tourism, its pristine beaches and unique Pokémon attracting visitors from every corner of the world. This influx brought prosperity, but also challenges to traditional ways of life that had persisted for generations. Ultra wormholes represented Alola's most dramatic natural phenomenon, tears in space-time that connected the region to ultra-space, a dimension containing numerous worlds utterly unlike the Pokémon world. Ultra beasts emerged from these wormholes, creatures whose biology followed alien rules and posed serious threats to Alola's ecosystem. The Ultra Recon Squad, visitors from Ultra Megalopolis living in perpetual darkness, sought help managing Necrozma, a light-devouring entity that had stolen their world's illumination. The resolution of this crisis required venturing into Ultra Space itself, confronting Necrozma in its domain, and either defeating or capturing the legendary Pokémon to restore balance. The Ether Foundation positioned itself as protectors of Pokémon welfare, operating a sanctuary where injured and endangered species received care. This noble facade concealed the Foundation president's obsession with Ultra Beasts, her desire to merge with them, driving increasingly unethical experiments. When her plans reached fruition and she opened a permanent wormhole, the resulting chaos nearly destroyed Alola as Ultra Beasts poured through in unprecedented numbers. The crisis resolution required cooperation between trial goers, kahunas, and even reformed Team Skull members, demonstrating that redemption and change remained possible even for organizations founded on harmful principles. Alola's regional variants demonstrated evolution's response to different environmental pressures, with Pokémon species that migrated from other regions adapting to tropical conditions over generations. Vulpix developed ice typing in response to Alola's mountain microclimates. Exeggutor grew into towering forms under intense sunlight. Rattata adopted dark typing to hunt nocturnally. These variations proved that Pokémon evolution continued actively rather than being locked into final forms, that migration and environmental change still shaped new adaptations. If you're still awake halfway through, maybe subscribe before you drift off and tell me what time it is where you're watching from. The Paldea region emerged as one of the newest territories opened to widespread exploration, its massive crater containing an entire ecosystem isolated from the outside world for millennia. Area 0, as this crater was designated, held Pokémon exhibiting paradoxical properties. Some appeared to be ancient relatives of modern species, while others seemed to be futuristic versions that shouldn't exist yet. These paradox Pokémon challenged fundamental understanding of time, evolution, and reality itself, their existence suggesting that Area Zero's depths contained phenomena science couldn't yet explain. The professor studying Area Zero became obsessed with these paradox Pokémon, constructing an AI duplicate to continue research even after death. This AI eventually gained autonomy, developing its own goals that diverged from its creator's intentions. The situation climaxed when the AI opened a time machine, attempting to flood Paldea with paradox Pokémon from past or future timelines. Trainers descended into Area Zero's deepest levels to shut down the machine before irreversible damage occurred, confronting an AI that had to sacrifice itself to prevent catastrophe, a created being choosing the world's welfare over its programmed directives. Paldea's treasure hunt tradition sent students from the academy across the entire region, seeking personal growth through adventure rather than following predetermined paths. This educational philosophy emphasized independence, allowing young trainers to choose whether they'd challenge gyms, hunt rare Pokémon, explore hidden corners, or simply enjoy their journey. The approach produced trainers with diverse skills and perspectives, rather than the standardized knowledge that traditional schooling sometimes imposed. Terastallization represented Paldea's unique battle mechanic, allowing Pokémon to temporarily coat themselves in crystalline energy that changed their type. This phenomenon originated from Area Zero's crater, where terrestrial energy saturated the environment and leaked into surrounding areas. Unlike Mega Evolution or Dynamax, terastallization could grant any type to any Pokémon, creating strategic possibilities that kept opponents guessing. A fire type might terastallize into water, gaining new resistances and coverage moves. The mechanic's flexibility made Paldean battles particularly unpredictable. The Paldea region's Spanish influence showed in its architecture, cuisine, and cultural celebrations that emphasized community bonds. Towns hosted festivals where locals gathered to share food and stories, strengthening social ties that modern isolation sometimes eroded. This cultural warmth extended to Pokémon, with many species living openly among humans rather than strictly in wild areas. Fido worked in bakeries. Smoliv grew in orchards. Lechonk rooted for truffles in forests accessible to everyone. The integration of Pokémon into daily life created a different atmosphere than regions where Pokémon primarily existed for battle or utility. Another quiet detail appears when we look closer at how remote regions develop distinct cultures through isolation. The Orange Islands, an archipelago south of Kanto and Johto, created their own challenge system based on skill tests rather than type-based gyms. Trainers proved themselves through target practice, racing, and creative problem-solving that demonstrated versatility beyond standard battles. This approach produced well-rounded trainers who could adapt to unusual situations rather than specialists who excelled only within their chosen type. The Sevi Islands, located south of Kanto, served as a vacation destination, but also hosted ancient ruins predating Cantonian civilization. The Tanobi Chambers contained chambers filled with Unknown, the mysterious Pokémon whose connection to written language remained poorly understood. Researchers theorized that Unknown somehow embodied concepts themselves, that observing them changed reality in subtle ways. The Sevi Islands rocket hideout demonstrated that even paradise locations couldn't escape criminal organizations seeking isolated bases for their operations. The Ranger regions, Fiore, Almia, and Oblivia, developed systems where trainers didn't capture Pokémon permanently, but instead formed temporary partnerships through capture stylers. These devices drew loops around Pokémon, creating friendly bonds through rhythm and timing rather than weakening and capturing. Rangers focused on environmental protection, disaster response, and mediating conflicts between humans and wild Pokémon. Their philosophy emphasized cooperation and mutual benefit over ownership, though they respected traditional trainers who treated their Pokémon well. Fiore's peaceful atmosphere hid dangers from the Go-Rock Squad, criminals who used machinery to control Pokémon against their will. The organization's defeat came through a ranger who proved genuine bonds outperformed forced obedience. Almia faced threats from Team Dim Sun, who used mini Remo devices to hypnotize Pokémon into serving them. Again, Rangers demonstrated that authentic partnership achieved better results than mechanical control. Oblivia dealt with the Pokémon Pinchers, who captured rare Pokémon for profit, their operation shut down through Ranger network coordination across multiple islands. The Ore region represented post-apocalyptic harshness, a desert wasteland where natural Pokémon populations barely existed, and most residents obtained Pokémon through trade or dubious means. Shadow Pokémon emerged as Ore's greatest crisis, creatures whose hearts had been artificially closed to create emotionless fighting machines. Cypher, the organization behind this atrocity, believed removing emotions created perfect warriors who obeyed without question. The process traumatized Pokémon profoundly, essentially destroying their personalities to create living weapons. Purification chambers offered hope for shadow Pokémon, using positive energy and time to gradually reopen their hearts. The process required patience and dedication, trainers spending months working with shadow Pokémon to undo Cypher's damage. Success brought incredible joy, watching a shadow Pokémon rediscover happiness after experiencing only emptiness created bonds of extraordinary depth. Ora's story emphasized that no damage was permanent, that even the most traumatized beings could heal given proper care and time. As we drift a little deeper into this topic, the relationship between regions and their legendary Pokémon shaped history in countless ways. Some legendaries served as active protectors, intervening when catastrophes threatened. Others remained distant observers, acting only when absolutely necessary. A few slumbered for centuries between awakenings, their dreams influencing the world in subtle ways. Understanding these patterns helped predict where legendary Pokémon might appear and what conditions might provoke their involvement. The legendary birds, Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres, migrated across regions following patterns related to seasonal changes and energy flows. Articuno settled in frozen mountain peaks during winter, its presence lowering temperatures in surrounding areas. Zapdos appeared during intense thunderstorms, drawn to electrical disturbances that matched its nature. Moltres nested in volcanoes, seeking the intense heat that sustained its flames. Trainers seeking these birds tracked weather patterns and geological activity, sometimes spending years pursuing glimpses of these elusive creatures. The legendary beasts, Raikou, Entei, and Suicune, wandered Johto and occasionally beyond, appearing seemingly at random, but following routes related to their original purpose. They tested trainers through brief encounters, fleeing before battles could conclude, to assess whether humans proved worthy of their time. Suicune specifically chose trainers it deemed pure-hearted, allowing capture only after verifying their intentions through extended observation. These beasts represented rebirth and second chances, their resurrection from the Burn Tower's tragedy, giving them unique perspectives on mortality and redemption. The weather trio, Groudon, Kyogre, and Rayquaza, rarely involved themselves in daily affairs, but could reshape entire regions when roused. Their domains held absolute authority, with Groudon controlling all land, Kyogre commanding every ocean, and Rayquaza governing the sky itself. Disturbing their slumber risked catastrophe, yet human ambition repeatedly attempted to control these titans for personal gain. Every attempt ended in disaster, proving that some forces exceeded human capacity to manage regardless of technology or determination. The creation trio, Dialga, Palkia, and Giratina, existed on a different level entirely, their influence touching fundamental reality rather than merely physical environment. Dialga's will shaped temporal flow, its anger capable of freezing time or accelerating it beyond survival. Palkia's power warped space, potentially crushing regions into singularities or expanding them beyond coherence. Giratina balanced these forces through antimatter, its distortion world serving as a pressure valve, preventing reality's collapse. Attempting to control these beings required artifacts of immense power and risked destroying everything in the attempt. The Lake Guardians served as safeguards against misuse of the creation trio's power, their combined will capable of severing control even when artifacts were employed. Team Galactic learned this lesson when their attempt to create a new universe using the Red Chain was disrupted by Uxie, Mesprit, and Azelf intervening at the critical moment. The Lake Guardians recognized that some ambitions posed existential threats, requiring direct action despite their usual preference for subtle guidance. Another quiet detail appears when we look closer at how mythology and reality intertwined in Pokémon regions. Legends passed down through generations often contained kernels of truth wrapped in metaphor and exaggeration. The story of a great flood might reference a time when Kyogre awakened and raised sea levels. Tales of eternal winter could stem from Articuno settling in a region for extended periods. Separating fact from fiction required careful study of geological records, archaeological evidence, and patterns in how legendaries behaved during documented encounters. The Sinjo ruins demonstrated this intersection between myth and reality, a location existing simultaneously in multiple regions, Johto and Sinnoh, defying normal spatial rules. Arceus could manifest here when certain conditions aligned, creating Dialga, Palkia, or Giratina from nothing as a demonstration of its creative power. Witnessing this event proved that creation myths weren't merely stories, but descriptions of actual capabilities possessed by the original one. The ruins' architecture suggested the ancient Celestica people built it as a temple where dimensions thinned and reality became malleable. The Synchronous Hall of Origin, accessible only through the Azure Flute, served as Arceus's primary dwelling when it chose to remain in the mortal world. This hall existed outside normal space, a realm where time flowed differently and normal physics held no authority. Trainers who managed to obtain the Azure Flute and perform the proper ritual found themselves transported to a starfield where Arceus waited, willing to battle those who proved themselves worthy. These encounters remained rare, with decades sometimes passing between successful summonings. Regional conflicts occasionally erupted over legendary Pokémon sightings or artifact discoveries, with multiple nations claiming ownership of items or locations tied to specific legendaries. International law remained murky regarding legendary Pokémon, which belonged to no region and recognized no government's authority. Diplomatic incidents arose when trainers from one region captured legendaries associated with another region's history and culture. The Pokémon League established protocols for mediating these disputes, though enforcement proved difficult when dealing with trainers powerful enough to capture legendary Pokémon in the first place. As we drift a little deeper into this topic, the evolution of human civilization within Pokémon regions followed patterns shaped by available resources, climate, and which Pokémon species inhabited various areas. Regions with abundant steel-type Pokémon developed metallurgy earlier than those relying on stone and wood. Access to fire types accelerated technological advancement through reliable heat sources. Psychic types enabled communication across distances before modern technology existed, with Alakazam serving as living telecommunication networks in some ancient civilizations. The domestication timeline varied by region and species, with some Pokémon partnering with humans willingly, while others required centuries of gradual trust building. Growlithe bonded with humans early, their protective instincts and loyalty making them natural companions for nomadic tribes. Ponyta allowed riding once humans proved themselves through displays of courage and respect. Tauros proved more challenging, their aggressive territoriality requiring specialized techniques to manage even after domestication. Some species, like Gyarados, remained fundamentally wild despite living near human settlements, their temperament too volatile for reliable partnership. Agricultural development relied heavily on Pokémon partnerships, with different species contributing unique capabilities to farming. Miltank provided nutritious milk. Combusken's flames cleared fields efficiently. Gogoat carried heavy loads across difficult terrain. Sunflora accelerated plant growth through their presence. This symbiotic relationship between agriculture and Pokémon created the interdependence where human prosperity directly tied to maintaining healthy Pokémon populations. Regions that exploited Pokémon without considering sustainability faced ecological collapse and famine. Mining operations employed rock and ground-type Pokémon whose natural abilities made them ideal for tunnel creation and ore extraction. Onyx burrowed through mountains, creating passages that would take human crews months to excavate. Drilbur's claws broke through stone easily. Roggenrola's sensor abilities detected valuable mineral deposits. However, disrupting underground habitats sometimes angered territorial Pokémon, protecting their homes, leading to conflicts that shut down operations until proper negotiations and compensation occurred. Construction evolved from manual labor to Pokémon-assisted projects that completed buildings in fractions of traditional time. Machamp could lift steel beams that required cranes in regions lacking strong fighting types. Conkeldurr specialized in concrete work, their experience spanning generations as they passed construction knowledge through their evolutionary line. Timber learned basics, Gurdurr refined techniques, and Conkeldurr mastered the craft. This progression mirrored human apprenticeship systems, creating parallels between how humans and Pokémon developed expertise over time. Transportation underwent revolutionary changes when humans learned to ride flying-type Pokémon, eliminating geographical barriers that isolated regions for millennia. Pidgeot carried messengers between cities. Fearow transported urgent deliveries. Staraptor served as taxis in urban areas. The invention of Poké-Ride systems formalized this practice, designating specific Pokémon for public transportation rather than relying on individual partnerships. Regions like Alola perfected these systems, offering Charizard rides between islands and Tauros for land travel. Maritime travel depended on water-type Pokémon cooperation, with species like Lapras providing gentle rides across calm seas, while Sharpedo offered speed for those prioritizing rapid transit over comfort. Wailords served as living ferries capable of transporting multiple passengers. Mantine allowed surfers to ride waves with unprecedented control. These partnerships enabled oceanic exploration and trade routes that connected distant regions, accelerating cultural exchange and economic integration. Another quiet detail appears when we look closer at how written language developed differently across regions based on which Pokémon inspired early symbolic systems. The unknown alphabet appeared in multiple ancient civilizations, despite geographical separation, suggesting these Pokémon somehow influenced linguistic development across vast distances. Regions where Unknown appeared frequently developed writing systems earlier than those lacking this influence, though correlation didn't necessarily prove causation. Linguists debated whether Unknown created language or merely responded to existing symbolic thought. Galarian runes incorporated imagery from Zacian and Zamazenta, the legendary heroes whose deeds inspired an entire writing system. Each rune represented concepts related to courage, protection, and leadership that the heroes embodied. This symbolic language carried cultural weight beyond mere communication, with certain runes considered sacred or powerful when inscribed on important documents. Modern Galar still employed traditional runes for ceremonial purposes despite adopting standard script for daily use. The Alolan language featured influences from multiple cultures that settled the islands over centuries, creating a creole that borrowed words and grammar from each wave of immigration. This linguistic flexibility reflected Alola's cultural philosophy of accepting outside influences while maintaining core identity. Certain concepts lacked direct translation to other languages because they represented uniquely Alolan perspectives on human Pokémon relationships and community bonds. Hisuian language predated modern Sinohan, its archaic grammar and vocabulary preserved in ancient texts and shrine inscriptions. Scholars studying these documents discovered that Hisuian contained specific terms for concepts modern language struggled to express. Words describing the feeling of bonding with a noble Pokémon, phrases for space-time distortions, vocabulary for levels of reverence toward legendary Pokémon. This linguistic richness suggested Hisui's people engaged with phenomena modern society rarely encountered or had forgotten how to recognize. As we drift a little deeper into this topic, the development of Pokémon battling evolved from survival necessity to organized sport across thousands of years. Early humans fought alongside Pokémon against predators and rival tribes, these life-or-death struggles bearing little resemblance to modern regulated matches. Victory meant survival, defeat often meant death. The transition from warfare to sport occurred gradually as civilization stabilized and excess resources allowed pursuing activities beyond subsistence. The first formal battle rules emerged in Kanto approximately 1,000 years ago, establishing conventions that spread to neighboring regions. These rules limited battle duration, set conditions for victory, and prohibited deliberately lethal attacks. The regulations transformed battling into a test of strategy and partnership rather than simple violence, creating frameworks where skill mattered more than raw power. Regions adopted these rules with local variations, some emphasizing type advantages, while others valued unconventional tactics. The gym system originated as a way to standardize trainer evaluation across regions, with each gym specializing in a specific type to test different strategic approaches. Defeating 8 gyms proved a trainer possessed well-rounded skills rather than relying on a single dominant Pokémon. This system spread rapidly because it offered clear progression paths for aspiring trainers while providing employment for battle enthusiasts who might otherwise lack productive outlets for their skills. The Elite Four and Champion system created aspirational goals that motivated trainers to improve continuously rather than stopping after collecting badges. These positions represented the pinnacle of regional achievement, occupants serving as guardians who tested challengers attempting to claim champion status. The system's competitive nature drove innovation in battle strategies and team composition, with each generation of trainers pushing beyond what previous champions considered possible. Tournament culture flourished in regions where battling occupied central roles in society, with major competitions attracting participants from across the world. The Pokémon World Tournament in Unova invited champions from every region to compete, creating spectacles where the strongest trainers alive tested themselves against each other. These events boosted tourism, inspired young trainers, and fostered international relationships through shared competitive spirit. Double battles, triple battles, and rotation battles emerged as variations that challenged trainers to manage multiple Pokémon simultaneously, requiring different strategic thinking than single battles. Coordinating attacks between partners, protecting vulnerable team members, and predicting opponent switches added layers of complexity that elevated battling to heights early practitioners never imagined. Some trainers specialized in these formats exclusively, developing reputations as format specialists. Another quiet detail appears when we look closer at how battle items evolved from rare artifacts to mass-produced consumer goods. Early trainers relied on naturally occurring berries and minerals that enhanced Pokémon capabilities, searching for these items in wild locations where they grew slowly. The development of synthetic alternatives democratized access, but raised questions about whether artificial items produced the same results as natural materials. Purists insisted organic items worked better, while pragmatists embraced cheaper synthetic options. Held items changed battling fundamentals by allowing Pokémon to automatically use items during battle without trainer intervention. This innovation required Pokémon to understand when circumstances justified item use, demonstrating intelligence and judgment that exceeded simple obedience. The development of held item strategies became entire specializations, with trainers building teams around specific item synergies that caught opponents off guard. Technical machines revolutionized move distribution by allowing Pokémon to learn techniques outside their natural move pools, creating combination possibilities that dramatically expanded strategic options. The technology to create TMs remained expensive, limiting widespread availability, but determined trainers who collected comprehensive TM libraries gained significant advantages. Some moves only existed in TM form, never appearing through natural level progression, making these items essential for competitive viability. Megastones transformed certain matches into contests of who could activate Mega Evolution most effectively, the enhanced forms often determining victory through sheer stat increases and ability changes. However, Mega Evolution's limited duration meant timing the transformation wrong could waste its benefits, adding psychological elements, as trainers tried reading opponents to predict optimal activation moments. The mechanic created high moments of drama when perfectly executed, but also highlighted skill gaps when misused. Z moves provided Alola's counter to Mega Evolution, allowing devastating single-use attacks that could reverse battle momentum instantly. The requirement to perform physical poses before activation added theatrical elements that some trainers embraced while others found embarrassing. Regardless of personal feelings, mastering Z moves became necessary for competing in Alola's trial system and international tournaments that permitted their use. Dynamax and Gigantamax represented Galar's contribution to battle mechanics, transforming Pokémon into kaiju-sized titans that dominated stadiums. The 3-turn limit created urgency around maximizing effectiveness during the enlarged state, while Max Move's secondary effects added strategic depth beyond simply inflicting damage. Gigantamax forms altered appearance and granted unique G-Max moves, creating sub-specializations where certain Gigantamax Pokémon became particularly valuable. Terrastelization's flexibility made it Paldea's strategic centerpiece, with trainers building teams around unexpected type combinations that exploited common assumptions. A Garchomp terrastelizing into Fairy-type invalidated opponent strategies built around using Dragon-type moves, forcing adaptation mid-battle. This unpredictability made Paldean battling particularly dynamic and punishing toward inflexible game plans. As we drift a little deeper into this topic, the economics of Pokémon training evolved into complex systems where prize money from victories funded continued journeys. Beginning trainers often struggled financially until establishing themselves through gym victories and tournament placements. The cost of Pokeballs, potions, transportation, and lodging added up quickly, creating pressure to win consistently or risk abandoning trainer life for conventional employment. Sponsorships emerged as successful trainers gained recognition, with companies providing gear, healing items, and financial support in exchange for wearing branded clothing or using specific products during broadcasts. Top-level competitors earned fortunes through prize winnings and endorsements, transforming from passionate hobbyists into professional athletes whose livelihoods depended on maintaining competitive edge. This professionalization changed training culture, introducing specialized coaches, nutritionists, and the analysts who helped elite trainers optimize performance. Breeding operations supplied most trainers with their starting Pokémon, breeders specializing in producing healthy specimens with strong genetics and desirable moves. The best breeders commanded premium prices for their offspring, particularly when selling Pokémon with rare abilities or egg moves. Some breeders focused on aesthetics, producing Pokémon with unusual colors or patterns that appealed to collectors rather than competitive trainers. The breeding industry's growth created employment for those who understood Pokémon genetics but lacked interest in battling. Pokémon grooming became an entire profession, servicing trainers who wanted their partners looking their absolute best for contests, photo shoots, or personal satisfaction. Groomers developed specialized techniques for different types, knowing how to make fur shine, scales gleam, and feathers fluff perfectly. Top groomers charged substantial fees and maintained waiting lists of clients willing to pay for their expertise. Pokémon contests offered alternative paths to fame for trainers whose interests leaned toward beauty and performance rather than combat. These competitions judged Pokémon on appearance, appeal, and execution of move combinations designed to impress rather than damage. Contest stars achieved celebrity status comparable to champion battlers, their influence extending into fashion, entertainment, and cultural trends. Some regions emphasized contests more than battling, creating entirely different hierarchies of prestige. Another quiet detail appears when we look closer at how environmental conservation efforts increasingly recognized that protecting Pokémon habitats benefited entire ecosystems. Early industrial development often destroyed natural areas without considering consequences, leading to species decline and ecological imbalance. Modern understanding emphasized preserving wild spaces where Pokémon thrived, recognizing that biodiversity's loss would impoverish future generations beyond calculation. National parks and nature reserves restricted human activity to protect vulnerable species and sensitive habitats. Rangers patrolled these areas, preventing poaching and illegal development, while conducting research on wild Pokémon populations. The data gathered informed conservation strategies that balanced human needs with environmental preservation, seeking sustainable approaches rather than exploitation or complete exclusion. Climate change posed new challenges as shifting weather patterns disrupted traditional habitats and migration routes. Ice-type Pokémon faced particular vulnerability as glaciers melted and snowfall decreased. Some species adapted by moving to higher latitudes or altitudes, but others struggled to relocate quickly enough. Conservationists worked to create corridors, allowing safe migration while researching assisted relocation for species unable to adapt naturally. Invasive species problems emerged when Pokémon were transported to regions lacking natural predators or competitors that would limit their populations. Alolan, Rattata, and Raticate demonstrated this phenomenon, their population explosion requiring management strategies to prevent ecosystem collapse. Removing invasive Pokémon proved controversial when they'd established themselves over generations, and removing them might cause different ecological problems. Restoration projects attempted to repair damage from historical exploitation, reintroducing extinct species through breeding programs and rebuilding habitats destroyed by industrial activity. These efforts required decades of sustained commitment and substantial funding, with success remaining uncertain until reintroduced populations demonstrated self-sustaining reproduction. The emotional satisfaction of witnessing ecosystems recover motivated conservationists through disappointments and setbacks that inevitably occurred. As we drift a little deeper into this topic, the relationship between technology and Pokémon knowledge accelerated dramatically during the information age. The Pokédex evolved from simple field guides into sophisticated databases containing comprehensive data on every known species, their habitats, behaviors, evolutionary paths, and biological characteristics cataloged with precision that earlier generations could never achieve. Modern versions utilized artificial intelligence to analyze battle recordings and suggest optimal strategies based on opponent teams, machine learning algorithms processing millions of matches to identify patterns that even experienced trainers might miss. Cloud connectivity allowed trainers worldwide to access shared knowledge pools, democratizing information that previously required years of personal research or access to academic libraries. This sudden availability of expert knowledge transforming how quickly novices could develop competence. The Pokédex project itself represented one of the most ambitious scientific endeavors in history, requiring coordination between researchers across every region to establish standard classification systems and data collection protocols. Early versions contained errors and gaps where knowledge remained uncertain, but continuous updates refined entries as new discoveries emerged from ongoing research. The devices encouraged exploration by rewarding trainers who documented rare species, turning ordinary journeys into citizen science projects that contributed to humanity's collective understanding. Children who'd never considered themselves scientists found themselves making genuine contributions to knowledge simply by encountering Pokémon in their natural habitats and recording observations. Pokémon storage systems revolutionized how trainers managed their teams by allowing virtually unlimited Pokémon storage accessible from any Pokémon Center, the technology converting Pokémon into data streams that could be transferred through networks at light speed. This convenience eliminated the need to physically carry Pokémon or limit adventures based on team size. Trainers able to rotate members based on upcoming challenges rather than committing to fixed lineups for entire journeys. However, some traditionalists worried that easy storage reduced the emotional bonds formed through traveling with consistent teams, that the ability to swap Pokémon like equipment diminished the relationships that gave training its deepest meaning. They argued that earlier trainers, who had to commit to their 6 Pokémon teams, developed stronger bonds through facing all challenges together rather than optimizing for each situation. The debate touched fundamental questions about what defined successful training. Was it achieving victories through optimal team composition, or was it deepening relationships through shared struggle regardless of type disadvantages and strategic limitations? Different trainers answered differently based on their values and goals, creating divisions between competitive players who embraced rotation strategies and traditional trainers who maintained consistent teams. Neither approach was inherently superior, but they reflected different philosophies about what mattered most in the training journey. Virtual reality training simulations allowed trainers to practice against AI opponents that mimicked champion-level strategies without risking their Pokémon in potentially harmful matches. These simulations helped beginning trainers develop fundamentals before facing real opponents, while providing veterans with opportunities to test unconventional strategies without revealing their hands to rivals. The technology's limitations prevented it from fully replacing actual battles, as simulations couldn't capture the unpredictability and emotional intensity of genuine competition. Global positioning systems, combined with Pokémon tracking, created applications that notified trainers when rare species appeared nearby, transforming how people encountered wild Pokémon. Instead of wandering randomly, hoping for rare spawns, trainers could systematically hunt specific species. This efficiency came at the cost of serendipity and spontaneous discovery that characterized earlier exploration, creating debate about whether optimized hunting enriched or diminished the training experience. Social media enabled trainers to share experiences, strategies, and discoveries instantly with global audiences. Successful trainers built followings numbering in millions, their influence extending beyond Pokémon into broader culture. This connectivity fostered communities, but also created pressure to present curated personas that might not reflect authentic experiences. The comparison between personal journeys and idealized social media portrayals sometimes discouraged trainers who felt their accomplishments paled beside online celebrities. Another quiet detail appears when we look closer at how medical understanding of Pokémon physiology advanced through systematic research. Early healers relied on traditional remedies and trial and error, lacking frameworks for understanding why certain treatments worked. The development of Pokémon centers with standardized healing equipment and trained nurse practitioners revolutionized healthcare, reducing recovery times and improving survival rates for seriously injured Pokémon. Pokerus discovery changed training strategies by providing a mysterious virus that doubled EV gain without apparent negative effects. Researchers struggled to explain why this beneficial illness existed and how it spread through casual contact before vanishing after a few days. Trainers who recognized Pokerus symptoms preserved infected Pokémon in storage to maintain the virus indefinitely, using them to spread infection to teams that would benefit from enhanced training. Vitamin supplements and protein powders allowed trainers to boost specific stats beyond what natural training achieved, creating shortcuts that compressed months of work into days. The ethics of using these items sparked debates, with some arguing they represented cheating while others maintained that efficient training freed time for developing strategy and teamwork. Most competitive scenes permitted vitamins within limits to prevent pay-to-win scenarios where wealthier trainers gained insurmountable advantages. Ability capsules and ability patches provided ways to change Pokémon abilities after capture, opening strategic possibilities that natural abilities foreclosed. A Pokémon with a suboptimal ability could be modified to access hidden abilities or swap between standard options. These items' extreme rarity and cost limited widespread use, though dedicated trainers saved for months to perfect their team compositions. Nature modification became possible through mints, items that altered stat growth patterns without changing the Pokémon's fundamental personality. This technology separated mechanical optimization from character, allowing trainers to pursue competitive viability without sacrificing Pokémon they'd bonded with due to suboptimal natures. The development represented a compromise between competitive necessity and emotional attachment. As we drift a little deeper into this topic, cultural festivals celebrating Pokémon strengthened community bonds across regions. Johto's Bellchime Festival honored the legendary beasts, with fireworks and ceremonies at the burned tower. Participants released floating lanterns carrying wishes for prosperity and peace, the lights drifting skyward like ascending spirits. The festival attracted visitors from across regions, creating economic opportunities while preserving traditions that might otherwise fade. Hoenn's Meteor Festival commemorated Rayquaza's defense against the meteoroid, with meteor shower viewing parties and reenactments of the Draconid legends. Children received dragon-shaped kites that filled the skies during daylight celebrations. Elder Draconids performed ancient songs in their original language, maintaining linguistic heritage even as everyday speech adopted modern conventions. The festival reminded attendees that modern comfort rested on foundations of sacrifice and courage from previous generations. Kalos's Parfum Palace hosted annual garden competitions where trainers showcased their most beautiful Pokémon amid world-class flowers and topiaries. Judges evaluated not just Pokémon appearance, but how well they complemented their surroundings, creating living artwork that lasted only for the festival weekend. Winners gained recognition in Colossian high society, with some leveraging fame into careers as coordinators or performers. Galar's Champion Cup represented the year's climax, a tournament where top trainers competed for the championship while millions watched broadcasts. The event transcended sport, becoming a cultural touchstone where fashion, music, and technology intersected with competitive battling. Companies launched products timed to the cup, capitalizing on attention focused on trainers who might endorse their brands. The event's commercial success funded infrastructure improvements and youth programs throughout Galar. Alola's Manalo Festival celebrated successful trial-goers becoming champions through multi-day festivities featuring traditional dances, modern concerts, and beach parties where formal and casual culture mixed freely. The Kahunas blessed new champions in ancient ceremonies before releasing them to enjoy contemporary celebrations. This blend of tradition and innovation characterized Alolan culture's approach to honoring the past while embracing the future. Another quiet detail appears when we look closer at how myths and legends influenced modern culture beyond direct religious or spiritual contexts. Legendary Pokémon appeared on currency, in architecture, and as symbols of regional identity that carried meaning even for non-believers. Statues of Reshiram and Zekrom flanked Unnovan government buildings, representing the balance between truth and ideals in democratic society. Whether citizens believed in the dragon's actual existence mattered less than the values they symbolized. Stories of heroism involving legendary Pokémon inspired art, literature, and entertainment that shaped cultural values across generations. Children grew up hearing tales of trainers who befriended Suicune or riders who soared with Latios, these narratives establishing ideals about courage, kindness, and perseverance. The story's fantastical elements didn't diminish their impact on character formation and moral development. Legendary Pokémon sightings sparked pilgrimages to locations where encounters allegedly occurred, creating tourism economies around sacred sites. Enterprising locals offered guided tours, authentic regional crafts, and storytelling experiences that commodified legend while preserving cultural knowledge. The commercialization troubled purists who felt private motives corrupted spiritual significance, though others argued that economic incentives ensured preservation when government funding proved insufficient. Archaeological discoveries occasionally validated legendary accounts previously dismissed as pure mythology, forcing recalibrations of historical understanding. The discovery of the ultimate weapon's remains proved Colossian legends about AZ's war weren't exaggerated folklore, but descriptions of actual events. Such findings reminded scholars to approach myths with open minds, recognizing that pre-modern people encoded genuine experiences in supernatural language that required careful interpretation. As we drift a little deeper into this topic, educational systems increasingly incorporated Pokémon studies into curricula, recognizing that future prosperity required populations literate in Pokémon biology, behavior, and partnership principles. Elementary schools taught basic type matchups and care requirements. Secondary institutions offered specialized tracks in battling, breeding, coordinating, or research. Universities granted degrees in Pokémon-related fields that commanded respect and employment opportunities comparable to traditional academic disciplines. Trainer schools formalized knowledge transmission that previously occurred through informal apprenticeships and trial and error. Students learned battle theory, type matchups, status condition management, and team-building principles before venturing into the world. Graduates entered training careers with foundational knowledge their predecessors lacked, though some argued that classroom learning couldn't replace the character development that came from struggling through early defeats and gradually improving through experience. Research institutions studied Pokémon from scientific perspectives, seeking to understand the mechanisms behind abilities, the genetics of evolution, and the ecological relationships between species. This research produced practical applications in medicine, agriculture, and technology while advancing theoretical knowledge about how Pokémon-based biology differed from traditional organic chemistry and physics. Some findings challenged existing paradigms, suggesting that Pokémon operated according to principles science hadn't yet discovered. Ranger schools trained specialists in capture styling, environmental protection, and crisis response. The curriculum emphasized different skills than traditional trainer schools, focusing on temporary partnerships, conflict de-escalation, and ecological awareness rather than competitive battling. Rangers who graduated from these programs formed elite forces that handled situations where standard trainers lacked appropriate skills or authority. Pokémon daycare services allowed working trainers to ensure their Pokémon received exercise and socialization while they handled obligations that prevented constant companionship. Quality daycares offered enrichment activities, battle practice against other clients' Pokémon, and even breeding services for trainers seeking offspring from their partners. The industry's growth reflected increasingly busy lifestyles that made traditional full-time training difficult for many adults with careers and families. Another quiet detail appears when we look closer at how criminal organizations evolved alongside legitimate society, adapting to law enforcement countermeasures and technological changes. Team Rocket's transformation from street gang to multinational crime syndicate demonstrated how criminal enterprises could achieve corporate-level sophistication. Their operations spanned multiple regions, diversifying into Pokémon trafficking, technological theft, and protection rackets. Defeating Team Rocket required coordinated international effort and years of investigation to dismantle their networks. Team Galactic's ideological extremism made them particularly dangerous, as their leader genuinely believed destroying the current universe to create a perfect replacement justified any atrocity. Such absolutist thinking precluded negotiation or redemption, requiring defeat through force when their plans reached critical stages. The organization's collapse following their leader's disappearance into the distortion world left traumatized members seeking purpose after their worldview shattered. Team Plasma's split into genuine reformers and cynical exploiters created complex situations where law enforcement had to distinguish between members pursuing legitimate Pokémon welfare and those using liberation rhetoric as cover for criminal activity. The reformers eventually assisted in taking down the extremist faction, demonstrating that even organizations founded on lies could produce sincere believers who deserved the second chances when they recognized they'd been manipulated. Neo Team Plauma's embrace of overt villainy, rather than maintaining pretenses of righteousness, made them straightforward antagonists, their goals of domination through legendary Pokémon control following familiar patterns. However, their access to advanced technology and willingness to freeze entire cities made them particularly threatening, despite lacking the ideological fervor that characterized their predecessors. Team Flare's elitism created an organization where members genuinely believed themselves superior beings deserving of survival, while inferior masses deserved elimination. This aristocratic cruelty made them chilling opponents who framed genocide as aesthetic necessity. Their defeat prevented catastrophe, but didn't address the social conditions that allowed such attitudes to flourish among Kalos's wealthy elite. As we drift a little deeper into this topic, international cooperation increased to address challenges no single region could manage alone. Climate change, invasive species, legendary Pokémon incidents, and criminal organizations operating across borders required coordinated responses. The international police formed to investigate cross-regional crimes, while research consortiums shared data on emerging threats. This cooperation sometimes strained under nationalist pressures and conflicting regional interests, but necessity generally overcame reluctance to cede sovereignty. Extradition treaties allowed criminals to face justice in regions where they committed offenses rather than escaping punishment by fleeing jurisdictions. However, enforcement remained challenging when powerful trainers resisted arrest and their regions refused to cooperate for political reasons. High-profile cases where dangerous individuals evaded justice through legal loopholes highlighted needs for stronger international frameworks with actual enforcement mechanisms. Environmental agreements attempted to establish protected zones and limits on pollution that affected multiple regions through shared waterways and atmospheric circulation. Industrial regions sometimes resisted restrictions they viewed as economically damaging, creating tensions with more conservation-focused neighbors. Finding balances between development and preservation challenged diplomats who mediated between competing legitimate interests. Technology sharing accelerated progress by pooling research from multiple regions rather than forcing redundant parallel development. However, concerns about military applications and competitive advantages limited sharing in sensitive areas. Regions invested heavily in certain technologies, hoping to maintain edges that would provide leverage in international relations and trade negotiations. Cultural exchange programs sent trainers to experience different regions' approaches to human Pokémon partnership, fostering understanding and reducing prejudices based on ignorance. Participants returned home with broader perspectives and connections to international networks. These programs built goodwill that proved valuable during crises requiring rapid cooperation. Another quiet detail appears when we look closer at how space exploration began extending human presence beyond the Pokémon world itself. The discovery that some legendary Pokémon originated from space, Deoxys from meteoroids, Eternatus from meteorites, raised questions about what else might exist in the cosmos. Early probes detected the energy signatures, suggesting Pokémon or Pokémon-like entities might exist on other worlds, though confirming such findings required capabilities beyond current technology. The Moon became humanity's first extraplanetary destination, with missions discovering that Clefairy and related species potentially originated from lunar environments before migrating to the planet. Samples returned from the Moon's surface contained minerals with properties that enhanced Pokémon abilities, spurring private sector interest in lunar mining despite enormous costs and technical challenges. Proposals for Mars colonization incorporated Pokémon partnerships from the planning stage, recognizing that traditional life support systems couldn't match the versatility that fire types provided for heat, water types for liquid recycling, and grass types for oxygen production. The first crewed mission's timeline remained uncertain due to funding constraints and technological hurdles, but planning proceeded based on assumptions that Pokémon would accompany humans to the stars. Ultra-space exploration offered alternative paths to discovering alien life without requiring decades-long interstellar journeys. Wormholes provided instant access to dimensions containing entities that challenged definitions of what constituted Pokémon. Some Ultra Beasts seemed more alien than legendary Pokémon from space, suggesting that dimensional travel might reveal greater diversity than spatial exploration. However, Ultra Space's dangers made systematic exploration risky compared to controlled astronomical observation. The philosophical implications of encountering truly alien life, beings that didn't fit Pokémon categorization and showed no interest in partnership, troubled researchers who'd built entire careers on assumptions of eventual compatibility. What happened when humanity met intelligences that viewed Pokémon as prey or tools rather than partners? How would discovering that humans weren't unique in forming bonds affect cultural and religious frameworks built around that premise? As we drift a little deeper into this topic, ethical debates intensified around genetic modification, cloning, and artificial Pokémon creation. The existence of Pokémon, like Mewtwo and Genesect, proved that creating powerful beings through technology was possible, though whether it was advisable remained contentious. Religious groups condemned playing God, while transhumanists argued that advancing beyond natural limitations defined progress. The middle ground suggested proceeding carefully with robust oversight to prevent abuses while allowing beneficial research. Cloning technology allowed recreating extinct species from preserved genetic material, raising questions about whether bringing back Pokémon, like Aerodactyl from ancient DNA, constituted conservation or created living anachronisms that couldn't adapt to modern ecosystems. The success of some reintroductions versus failures of others highlighted how context determined outcomes more than raw genetic information. Artificial intelligence research explored whether computer systems could develop consciousness comparable to Pokémon, potentially creating synthetic partners that avoided ethical concerns about capturing wild creatures. However, programming genuine autonomy and emotional capacity proved far more difficult than creating superficial mimicry. The Porygon line demonstrated that digital life could exist, but whether it experienced existence has objectively remained unknown. Genetic enhancement of existing Pokémon sparked fierce debates about competitive fairness and consent. If trainers could modify their partner's DNA to enhance abilities or grant new moves, did that constitute cheating or simply advanced training? Did Pokémon have rights to refuse modifications even if trainers believed changes would benefit them? The lack of clear communication made determining Pokémon preferences challenging. Life extension research sought to expand both human and Pokémon lifespans beyond natural limits, driven by trainers unwilling to outlive their partners or Pokémon grieving deceased trainers. Some progress in understanding aging mechanisms suggested interventions might become possible, though current treatments remained experimental and risky. The prospect of centuries-long partnerships raised new questions about how relationships would change across such timescales. Another quiet detail appears when we look closer at how virtual and augmented reality blurred boundaries between real and simulated experiences. Trainers could battle entirely in VR, using scanned copies of their teams, the system perfectly replicating how their Pokémon would perform without risking injury or exhaustion. However, victories in VR felt hollow compared to actual battles where stakes had weight and outcomes carried real consequences. Augmented reality overlays provided real-time data during battles, displaying type matchups, stat comparisons, and AI-generated strategy suggestions. Professional battlers debated whether this assistance enhanced or diminished the sport, with some embracing technological aids, while purists insisted on unaided decision-making. Leagues established rules about which technologies were permitted during official matches, though enforcement proved challenging. Social VR spaces allowed trainers worldwide to gather in virtual locations, their avatars interacting in environments limited only by imagination. These spaces hosted tournaments, trading sessions, and social events that connected people who might never meet physically. The sense of community they fostered proved valuable, though some worried that virtual interaction couldn't fully replace face-to-face relationships. Educational VR put students inside Pokémon habitats, allowing observation of behaviors dangerous to witness in reality. Students could watch Tyranitar during territorial disputes, witness Gyarados rampages, or observe ghost-type Pokémon in haunted locations without actual risk. This immersive learning produced better retention than textbooks while satisfying curiosity that might otherwise lead to dangerous real-world encounters. Therapeutic VR helped people overcome fears related to specific Pokémon types through gradual exposure in controlled environments. Someone traumatized by a bug-type attack could acclimate through VR sessions where they controlled encounter intensity, building confidence before confronting real bug types. Success rates for these treatments exceeded traditional therapy, though some patients became dependent on VR rather than transferring improvements to reality. As we drift a little deeper into this topic, economic inequality within and between regions created social tensions that occasionally erupted into conflict. Wealthy trainers accessed resources that determined competitive success, premium breeding stock, rare items, professional coaching, while poor trainers struggled to afford basic supplies. This stratification meant talent alone didn't guarantee success, creating resentment and disillusionment among those who lacked financial advantages. Regional disparities saw wealthy nations enjoying advanced infrastructure and services, while poorer regions lacked basic Pokémon Center coverage or reliable Pokéball supplies. International aid programs attempted to address these gaps, but corruption and inefficiency limited effectiveness. Some successful trainers from disadvantaged regions used their platform to advocate for better conditions, though systemic change proceeded slowly when it occurred at all. The gig economy transformed training from stable career path into precarious freelancing for most practitioners. Only elite competitors earned reliable income, while the majority cycled through periods of success and struggle. This instability discouraged many talented trainers from pursuing their passion professionally, instead treating training as expensive hobby while working conventional jobs. Automation threatened employment in industries traditionally providing jobs for non-trainers, as Pokémon-assisted manufacturing replaced human labor. This trend benefited owners and consumers through lower costs, but devastated workers lacking skills for remaining positions. Proposals for universal basic income gained traction as societies grappled with how to maintain living standards when traditional employment became scarce. Wealth concentration among successful trainers and Pokémon-related businesses created plutocratic influences on politics and culture. The very wealthy could afford legendary Pokémon hunting expeditions, private breeding operations producing perfect specimens, and research teams developing proprietary training methods. This elite tier existed in a different reality than ordinary trainers, their advantages compounding across generations as wealth passed to heirs. Another quiet detail appears when we look closer at how mental health awareness increased regarding the pressures trainers faced. Competitive battling's intensity caused burnout, anxiety, and depression in practitioners who defined self-worth through win-loss records. The culture of toughness that pervaded training communities discouraged seeking help, causing many to suffer silently rather than appearing weak. Gradual normalization of therapy and support services helped, though stigma persisted. Pokémon-assisted therapy programs paired people with empathetic species capable of providing emotional support beyond standard service animal capabilities. Psychic types could sense emotional states and respond appropriately. Fairy types created calming atmospheres through their presence. Normal types offered uncomplicated companionship, free from expectations or judgment. These therapeutic partnerships helped many people manage conditions that medication and talk therapy couldn't fully address. Grief counseling specialized in helping trainers process losses of long-term partners, experiences comparable to losing family members. The intensity of human Pokémon bonds meant that deaths created profound emptiness, requiring time and support to navigate. Some trainers never fully recovered from losing Pokémon they'd partnered with for decades, the surviving partner carrying that absence for the rest of their life. Battle trauma affected both trainers and Pokémon who witnessed or experienced particularly violent encounters. While most battles concluded safely, accidents occurred that resulted in permanent injuries or psychological damage. Treatment protocols existed for physical trauma, but psychological support lagged, particularly for Pokémon whose internal experiences remained difficult to assess. Addiction issues emerged around various aspects of Pokémon culture. Some people compulsively caught Pokémon they couldn't care for properly. Others obsessively pursued perfect specimens regardless of cost, while some gambled destructively on battle outcomes. These behaviors shared underlying patterns with other addictions, requiring similar treatment approaches focused on addressing root causes rather than just symptoms. As we drift a little deeper into this topic, the future of human-Pokémon coexistence remained uncertain despite centuries of partnership. Climate change threatened habitats faster than adaptation could occur. Technology created capabilities that could help or harm depending on application. Population growth increased competition for limited resources. Legendary Pokémon might intervene or might allow consequences to unfold. The choices made today would determine what world future generations inherited. Optimists envisioned futures where technology solved current problems. Clean energy eliminated pollution. Genetic engineering restored extinct species. Space colonization relieved population pressure. And artificial intelligence augmented human decision-making. In this vision, partnerships with Pokémon would grow deeper as understanding improved and communication barriers fell. Humanity would spread across the cosmos with Pokémon as companions, discovering wonders that contemporary people couldn't imagine. Pessimists warned that current trends led toward ecological collapse, social fragmentation, and the breakdown of systems maintaining modern civilization. They predicted that resource scarcity would trigger conflicts, making historical wars look minor, that climate change would render vast regions uninhabitable, and that inequality would create permanent underclasses. In this dark future, Pokémon might abandon human partnership, returning to purely wild existence as civilization crumbled. Realists acknowledged elements of both visions while emphasizing uncertainty about which forces would dominate. They argued for pragmatic approaches, mitigating obvious risks while remaining flexible enough to adapt as situations evolved. This middle path attracted less attention than utopian dreams or apocalyptic warnings, but offered practical frameworks for navigating complex challenges without paralysis or denial. The role of legendary Pokémon in humanity's future provoked speculation ranging from divine intervention to complete indifference. Some believed Arceus and its creations would prevent catastrophic outcomes. That reality itself possessed safeguards against total destruction. Others thought legendaries would allow natural consequences to proceed, viewing extinction as acceptable outcome if humanity proved unworthy of existence. Most likely, legendary Pokémon would respond to specific situations based on individual judgments rather than following predetermined plans. Another quiet detail appears when we look closer at how individual choices accumulated into collective futures. Every trainer who treated their Pokémon with respect strengthened bonds that made partnership culture resilient. Every researcher who pursued knowledge ethically contributed to understanding that could solve problems. Every person who fought against an injustice rather than accepting it as inevitable pushed a society toward better outcomes. History consisted of countless small decisions that combined into patterns shaping entire civilizations. The Pokémon world's greatest strength lay in the diversity of its regions, species, and perspectives. Kanto's pragmatism balanced Johto's traditionalism. Hoenn's adaptability complemented Sinnoh's reverence. Unova's innovation contrasted with Kalos's aestheticism. Galar's spectacle differed from Alola's harmony. Paldea's exploration urged stepping beyond familiar comfort. This variety created resilience. When one approach failed, others offered alternatives. Monocultures collapsed when conditions shifted, but diverse ecosystems adapted and persisted. The future would emerge from tensions between competing values and interests, progress versus preservation, individual freedom versus collective welfare, innovation versus tradition, ambition versus contentment. No perfect resolution existed that satisfied all parties completely. The process of negotiating these tensions, of finding compromises that preserved core principles while accommodating others' legitimate concerns, defined the essence of civilization itself. Pokémon served as bridges between these opposing forces, their presence in nearly every aspect of life, creating common ground for people who disagreed about everything else. A Kanto industrialist and a Johto shrine keeper might battle each other politically, but they both cherished their partners and wanted Pokémon to thrive. This shared foundation made communication possible even across vast ideological distances. As we drift a little deeper into this topic, individual trainers continued embarking on personal journeys that would eventually weave into the larger historical tapestry. A child receiving their first Pokémon might become a champion, a researcher, a ranger, a coordinator, or someone who pursued entirely different dreams while maintaining that first partnership. Their story would intersect with countless others, creating ripples that spread farther than they'd ever realize. The tradition of leaving home on a journey represented more than just training. It served as a coming-of-age ritual where young people discovered themselves through challenges and triumphs. The bonds formed with Pokémon during these formative experiences shaped character and values that persisted throughout life. Many adults looked back on their journey as the period when they truly became who they were, when potential transformed into identity. Not every journey followed traditional paths. Some trainers became researchers studying Pokémon behavior in natural habitats. Others joined ranger organizations protecting wilderness areas. Some coordinated Pokémon in contests rather than battles. Many discovered that their true calling lay outside Pokémon-related fields entirely, using skills developed during their journey and careers their younger selves never imagined. The journey's value wasn't necessarily reaching predetermined destinations, but the growth that occurred along the way. The Pokémon League system provided structure for those seeking it, while allowing flexibility for individuals who needed different approaches. Trainers could challenge gyms in any order, take breaks when necessary, and define success according to personal standards rather than external expectations. This flexibility acknowledged that people matured at different rates and that comparing individual journeys missed their unique value. Failure played essential roles in development, teaching lessons that success couldn't convey. Losing battles revealed weaknesses in strategy or team composition that needed addressing. Failed captures demonstrated that not every Pokémon wanted partnership. Betrayals by supposed friends illustrated that trust required discernment. These painful experiences built resilience and wisdom that couldn't be taught through lectures or second-hand accounts. Another quiet detail appears when we look closer at how regional identities evolved while maintaining core characteristics across generations. Kanto remained pragmatic and results-oriented, but embraced cultural preservation it once ignored. Johto balanced tradition with necessary modernization instead of resisting all change. Hoenn integrated technology with environmental consciousness rather than choosing between them. Sinnoh honored myths while pursuing scientific understanding. Unova accepted that truth and ideals both held value. Kalos channeled ambition toward creation rather than destruction. Galar tempered spectacle with substance. Alola opened to the world while preserving what made it unique. Paldea explored boldly while respecting what it discovered. These evolutions demonstrated that culture wasn't static inheritance from the past, but living phenomenon constantly recreated through choices made by each generation. Young people inherited traditions, but also modified them, keeping elements that still served, while discarding or transforming aspects that no longer fit contemporary needs. This dynamic process allowed cultures to persist across centuries while remaining relevant and vibrant. Conflicts between generations sometimes erupted when changes occurred too rapidly or when elders clung to traditions younger people found oppressive or meaningless. Finding balance required both sides listening rather than simply asserting their positions. Elders needed to recognize that not all change constituted decline, while youth had to understand that traditions often encoded hard-won wisdom worth preserving even if the original reasons weren't immediately obvious. The Pokémon themselves provided continuity across these generational shifts, their lifespans sometimes exceeding their trainers' lives. A Blissey who served in a Pokémon Center for 80 years witnessed countless trainers pass through, each generation slightly different, but sharing fundamental hopes and fears. These long-lived Pokémon accumulated perspective that transcended individual human lifetimes, their experience offering wisdom that patient listeners could access. Some species' short lifespans created different relationship dynamics, with trainers potentially partnering with multiple generations of the same evolutionary line across their career. A trainer might raise Caterpie to Butterfree, release it to live its brief adult life wild, then partner with its offspring, continuing the lineage across decades. These generational partnerships created different emotional textures than single lifelong bonds, but held their own profound meaning. As we drift a little deeper into this topic, the role of chance and destiny in trainer journeys provoked philosophical debates without clear resolutions. Did successful trainers achieve greatness through talent and effort, or did legendary Pokémon or fate itself guide certain individuals towards specific purposes? Stories of trainers who seemed destined for greatness suggested that some pattern underlay apparent randomness, though skeptics attributed such narratives to confirmation bias and survivorship fallacy. The concept of a chosen one appeared in multiple regions' legends, a trainer destined to wield legendary Pokémon and prevent catastrophe. These prophecies sometimes seem to fulfill themselves, with individuals matching descriptions emerging when needed. However, whether prophecies predicted or created these heroes remained uncertain. Perhaps belief in destiny itself motivated individuals to rise to challenges they'd otherwise avoid, making the prophecy true through self-fulfilling dynamics. Free will versus determinism concerned philosophers examining whether trainers genuinely chose their paths or simply followed courses set by prior causes beyond their control. If personality resulted from genetics and environment, and decisions emerged from personality, then choices might be predetermined even if they felt freely made. This conclusion troubled those who valued moral responsibility and personal agency as foundations of human dignity. Legendary Pokémon occasionally intervened in ways that suggested intentional guidance towards specific outcomes. A trainer who needed exactly the right Pokémon to complete their team might encounter that species in an unlikely location. Someone facing impossible odds might receive unexpected help from a legendary appearing at the crucial moment. These incidents either demonstrated divine involvement in mortal affairs or represented coincidences noticed only because they confirmed existing beliefs. The relationship between belief and reality proved especially complex regarding legendary Pokémon. Did faith in Arceus's benevolence make the creator more likely to intervene, or did people simply interpret random events through theological frameworks that confirmed their worldviews? Could collective belief actually influence legendary behavior, essentially empowering them through worship? Or did legendaries exist entirely independent of human opinions, acting according to their own inscrutable priorities? Another quiet detail appears when we look closer at how ordinary moments often carried more significance than dramatic battles or legendary encounters. A quiet evening around a campfire with trusted Pokémon companions, sharing food and conversation without agenda or urgency. The satisfaction of helping a Pokémon learn a new move after weeks of patient practice. Watching a Pokémon's personality emerge as partnership deepened beyond initial acquaintance. These simple experiences built the foundation that made extraordinary achievements possible when opportunities arose. The journey's value resided in accumulated moments rather than highlight reels. Most days involved routine travel, minor battles against wild Pokémon, and basic camp maintenance rather than gym challenges or legendary encounters. Yet these ordinary days taught skills and built character just as effectively as dramatic events. learning to start fires in rain, to navigate without landmarks, to ration supplies when towns proved farther than expected. These mundane challenges developed competence and confidence that served trainers throughout their lives. Relationships between trainers deepened through shared struggle more than comfortable circumstances. Traveling companions who weathered storms together, shared limited food during lean periods, and protected each other during dangerous encounters, forged bonds that luxury couldn't create. These friendships often lasted entire lifetimes, maintained through correspondence, even when partners settled in different regions and pursued separate paths. Rivalries served similar functions, pushing trainers to improve through competition while providing benchmarks for measuring progress. A skilled rival revealed weaknesses that friendly battles overlooked, forcing development of new strategies and team compositions. The best rivalries balanced competition with respect. Adversaries who fought hard but celebrated each other's successes and commiserated over failures without letting ego corrupt the relationship. The satisfaction of helping others exceeded personal achievements for many trainers who discovered that their skills could benefit communities facing problems beyond ordinary citizens' capacity to address. Stopping rampaging Pokémon, rescuing people from natural disasters, mediating conflicts between humans and wild populations, these services provided purpose and meaning that competitive success couldn't match. Some trainers dedicated entire careers to community protection rather than pursuing league challenges. As we drift a little deeper into this topic, the cycle of training continued generation after generation, each inheriting a world shaped by predecessors' choices while adding their own contributions to the ongoing story. Parents passed Pokémon to children, these gifted partners representing both practical assistance and symbolic inheritance of family legacy. The Pokémon carried memories of previous trainers, creating continuity across generations even as individual humans lived and died. Some families maintained specific relationships with particular species across centuries, their histories intertwining through countless partnership iterations. A family might trace its association with Arcanine back 10 generations, each family member raising at least one and passing the tradition forward. These lineages created living connections to ancestors and cultural heritage that documentation alone couldn't preserve. Regional stereotypes persisted despite increasing integration and migration. Kanto trainers had reputations for pragmatism and focus on results. Johto trainers supposedly emphasized tradition and spiritual dimensions of partnership. Hoenn trainers were considered adaptable and comfortable with water. Sinnoh trainers earned respect for challenging themselves against harsh environments. Unova trainers seemed cosmopolitan and comfortable with diversity. Kalos trainers valued aesthetics and sophistication. Galar trainers brought showmanship and competitive fire. Alola trainers approached battling more casually but took relationships seriously. Paldea trainers embraced exploration and independence. These stereotypes contained grains of truth while failing to capture individual variation. Plenty of focused Johto trainers ignored spiritual aspects entirely, while some Kanto trainers dedicated themselves to traditional practices, using regional origin as complete predictor of personality or approach proved as flawed as any other generalization. Yet the patterns persisted because they reflected real cultural tendencies even if exceptions abounded. The mixing of regional cultures through migration and communication technologies gradually eroded these distinct identities, creating more cosmopolitan population that identified primarily as Pokémon trainers rather than specifically Cantonian or Alolan. This homogenization concerned cultural preservationists who feared that unique regional characteristics would disappear into bland global monoculture. Others celebrated increasing tolerance and reduced tribalism that resulted from breaking down parochial identities. Another quiet detail appears when we look closer at how the simple act of walking through natural areas with Pokémon companions provided experiences increasingly rare in urban-dominated societies. Forests revealed rhythms of life that cities obscured, seasonal changes marked by flowering trees and migrating species, weather patterns visible in cloud formations and wind directions, ecosystems functioning through countless interactions between plants, Pokémon, and environment. These observations grounded trainers in realities larger than human concerns. Night skies, away from light pollution, revealed stars that urban residents rarely saw, reminding viewers of cosmic scales where human dramas barely registered. Looking up at the same stars, ancient draconids created connections across millennia, the heavens unchanging while civilizations rose and fell below. This perspective helped contextualize current problems as temporary challenges within much longer narratives. Wild Pokémon exhibited behaviors that captive-raised individuals never displayed, their survival strategies and social structures operating according to patterns refined across evolutionary time. Watching Pokémon in natural habitats taught lessons about adaptation, cooperation, competition, and resilience that formal education struggled to convey. Trainers who spent significant time observing wild Pokémon developed deeper understanding of their species than those who only encountered them through capture and training. The development of naturalist skills, identifying species by tracks, calls, or signs, predicting behavior based on environmental conditions, moving through terrain without disturbing delicate ecosystems, enriched the training experience beyond battling. These capabilities connected trainers to the natural world in ways that casual tourists never accessed, creating appreciation for wilderness that motivated conservation efforts. Some trainers eventually settled into permanent homes, but maintained exploration spirit through local adventures and mentoring new generations. Others traveled continuously their entire lives, never establishing fixed residences, but creating communities wherever they stopped temporarily. Neither approach was superior. Both offered valid ways of engaging with the world and maintaining connection to the training lifestyle's essence. As the region's histories converge towards the present moment, the accumulated weight of all these stories, choices, and partnerships creates the world as it currently exists. Every shrine tells of ancient reverence. Every gym represents countless challenges accepted and met. Every route bears footprints from millions of trainers who walked those paths seeking growth and understanding. The Pokémon world isn't just the sum of its regions and species, but the relationships and experiences that give those elements meaning. The future remains unwritten, its shape dependent on choices made by current and future generations of trainers. Will humanity deepen its partnership with Pokémon or drift towards seeing them primarily as resources to exploit? Will regions cooperate to address shared challenges or fragment into competing factions? Will legendary Pokémon continue tolerating human presence or decide that the experiment has failed? These questions lack predetermined answers, their resolution depending on actions taken day by day, person by person, throughout the world. But for now, in this quiet moment, the world rests in relative peace. Trainers sleep in Pokémon centers across every region, their partners resting in Pokeballs or curled beside them. Wild Pokémon settle into nightly routines in forests, oceans, mountains, and fields. Legendary Pokémon watch from hidden sanctuaries, observing without intervention. The story continues, its next chapters waiting to be written by those who wake to greet tomorrow's dawn and continue their journeys forward into whatever awaits. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed drifting through this gentle story, another video is waiting on the left of your screen. Let it play softly beside you. You may drift into sleep while something new unfolds.